Donald Trump has said that communism is, in fact, America's biggest threat. He just said this actually yesterday at a rally in Michigan. And he's not wrong. In fact, the history of communism within America dates back all the way back to the early 20th century. Now, you and I, we started to hear this and have read this in the history books with Joseph McCarthy, who was a Republican senator in 1947 and specifically tasked with rooting out communists within government and the entertainment business. Now, what's fascinating is that the Democrat Party has been hijacked by unrepentant Marxists, socialists, and communists, and they're actually coming out of the shadows. And this is their message of appeal to the voters. They've had selective success locally. We've also seen success on a larger scale with Mamdani in New York City as the mayor. So the question now is that as you're starting to see these factions within the Democrat Party building, one of which are unrepentant communists, socialists, and Marxists, is this in fact the new Democrat Party? Let's have a look.
In recognizing a communist, physical appearance counts for nothing. If he openly declares himself to be a communist, we take his word for it.
I am a democratic socialist.
You call yourself a democratic socialist?
I'm a democratic socialist. Mamdani is a self-described socialist.
I am a democratic socialist.
Claire Valdez, this is a candidate, again, aligned with the Democratic Socialists of America.
I'm a proud democratic socialist.
I identify as a democratic socialist, but I'm running as a Democrat.
We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. We will
Folks, there's nothing warm about collectivism, and Mamdani is about to drive New York City into the ground, but I digress.
prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about.
If a person consistently reads and advocates the views expressed in a communist publication, he may be a communist.
Social media posts from Teresa Avila Chevalier's old X account, including favorable references to communism, Marxist ideology, and authoritarian communist figures.
As Eugene Debs once said,
If a person supports organizations which reflect communist teachings, she may be a communist.
Yep.
I've been a member of New York City DSA for 7 years.
Feed the rich and feed the poor. This is class war.
If a person defends the activities of communist...
Now, I don't know if you're paying attention, but I've yet to see actually a true working class minority in any of these protests. In fact, what we're seeing are primarily college-educated folks and primarily females, which is that interesting dynamic, which is there's nothing worse than a liberal white female. But again, continue to watch this because this is fascinating that the Marxists have come out of the shadows and they think that this message will appeal to America.
Nations while consistently attacking the domestic and foreign policy of the United States. She may be a communist.
Cuba has a remarkable public health system.
We remember Fidel Castro, whose legacy is complex.
Sort of the opposite of what the United States has.
You know, when Fidel Castro came into office, you know what he did? He had a massive literacy program. Is that a bad thing?
There's a lot of dissidents imprisoned in Cuba.
That's right.
The actions and U.S. contributions to the suffering of Cubans.
This particular bullying and the use of sanctions.
Like other U.S. policies, the cruelty is the point.
It does not help the people of countries like Venezuela.
Do you believe that the 9/11 terrorist attacks on America were the inevitable consequence of American foreign policy?
Inevitable in the sense that we destabilized a lot of the Middle East, that forced people to believe that another act of violence was the only response.
Social media post from Elisa Avila Chevalier. One calls the United States an effing disgrace.
If a person does all these things over a period of time, he must be a communist.
I mean, our goal is liberation. Our goal is communism.
Oh, gosh. So, again, this is the message now of the Democrats as they've been hijacked by the progressives. And the progressives are not progressive. They're actually using that as a smokescreen for unrepentant socialists, Marxists, and communists. So the question is, will this be successful? Well, we've seen pockets of it with AOC. We've seen pockets of it with the Squad. Bernie and the Bernie Bros actually almost took the Democratic nomination when he was going up against Hillary. And what the DNC actually did at that point was to intercede and to try to get Bernie and his funding to go away. So one of the questions that you may have is if the DSA and the communists and the Marxists actually succeed in getting a candidate with this message to the national level, I mean, ask yourself, what would happen if Mamdani was president? What would he do to his dissidents? What would he do to others that don't feel the same, right? What would AOC do? What would members of the Squad do? Well, we don't need to look too far because the Communist Manifesto and the early research into the communists by Joseph McCarthy, well, they tell us everything that we need to know.
In 1943, the following directive was issued from party headquarters to all communists in the United States. It read, when certain obstructionists become too irritating, label them after suitable buildups as fascist or Nazi or anti-Semitic.
Okay.
And use the prestige of anti-fascist and tolerance organizations to discredit them. In the public mind, constantly associate those who oppose us with those names which already have a bad smell. The association will, after enough repetition, become fact in the public mind.
So we saw that technique actually from Nancy Pelosi when she was Speaker of the House, and she said that the more I get this message out, regardless of if it's factually true, the more it's believed. So this is the marketing technique of any one of the politicians, including Bernie, who's now been for years trying to sell us on a repackaged socialism, calling it democratic socialism. There's nothing democratic about socialism. In fact, socialism in and of itself is anti-democratic. But don't explain that to the Bernie Bros, because what he's ultimately trying to do is to show us some steaming pile of crap, or sell us some steaming pile of crap with sprinkles on it, which is his version of democratic socialism. So why do I show you this, and why is it important for us to understand? This is the reason why. We're living in fascinating times politically with the faction building that's happening on the right between America First, MAGA, the populists, the swamp, and also on the left, where we've seen moderates on the left get run out of Congress, right? Joe Manchin was one of the last true blue independent type left-leaning Democrats. They're gone. The Democrat Party has now shifted from center left, which is where they were back in the early 90s, to extreme left, to now where DSA candidates, which is the Democrat Socialists of America, are wanting to take America out. If they get a candidate with a DSA type principle or a Marxist principle into a national platform, into the White House, heaven forbid, it's over, folks, because the Democratic Party believes in nothing more other than silencing their opposition and spending money flagrantly. So they're going to drive this country into the ground because, again, look at one of the tenets of socialism, right? When you have more takers than people that are givers, money runs out. And what happens to Bernie and his democratic socialism when there's no money left? You will have absolute anarchy. So this message of driving America into the ground by the DSA, by the Marxists and the communists, and we've seen it, that they're now out of the shadows, is destructive. And Donald Trump is right in saying this is, from a domestic standpoint, the biggest threat to America as it stands. Will they have luck into the midterms? That's yet to be seen, because the DNC, as it speaks right now, is bankrupt. In fact, Just yesterday, the DNC took a loan out on with collateral with all of their buildings that they own because they are technically 15 million in the hole. So they had to collateralize their buildings, and that's not a good sign. That means that their fundraising is drying up because the tribalism of the Marxist, Communist, Socialist, DSA candidates, and then the AOC types and other, they're all over the map. They have no winning message, but their unrepentant nature is something that we should all really truly start to take notice on and take seriously, because if we care about our country, and we do and should, then this country, we need to admit, will go down in flames if the socialists and Marxists take a hold of our representative republic. It's over, folks, because they want to take border down. They want to take the Senate down. They want to take over the judiciary, right? That at this point, and basically defund our military. So at this point, we will no longer be America as it stands. The experiment is over. That's where we stand going into the midterms, with the Democrats bankrupt, with the factionizing and tribalism building within the party. I'm curious what you think. Do you think they're going to have any success at the national level in getting a candidate that has DSA, Marxist, or communist, dreams, like Bernie did, into a winning ticket into the midterms? Let me know what your thoughts in the comments down below. We'll see you in the very next video. Be sure to like and subscribe to The Chris Locke Show for the latest America First news, conservative commentary, and the stories that mainstream media refuses to cover. These two videos right up here, they're going to be next. Pick your favorite. I'll see you over there.